The Toronto Raptors finished the road trip with a big-time win over the Memphis Grizzlies, 106-103. Welcome to Raptors Tonight. I'm Randy Urban, joined by Sherman Hamilton, Jack Armstrong, and Jevohn Shepherd. Sherman, from your perspective, simply put, how was Toronto able to take this one in that fourth quarter?
I thought they just really got down and outplayed the Memphis Grizzlies. And, Memphis not having their key guys in terms of John Morant and another starter in the lineup, it really impacted their ability to execute down the stretch. But you tip your hat to the Raptors. I mean, the seventh game of a seven-game road trip, and they got locked in that fourth quarter, especially down the stretch. I thought their defense was tough offensively. Scotty Barnes did a great job taking over. The bench was really good in that fourth quarter. I just thought that collectively as a team, they didn't quit on the road trip, and it showed. And the fact that they got multiple stops when they needed it and were able to find a way to put the ball in the basket as well via Scotty Barnes, this is a real gutsy win for the Raptors.
And Jevohn, as I was watching, I was a little bit unsure as to whether or not they were going to be able to muster that energy in the fourth quarter just based on this road trip.
Yeah, and I think it's tough because like Sherman mentioned, this is a 2-week road trip. And everybody's exhausted, right? Everybody wants to get home, get some home cooking, get to their bed. But I thought they really played with passion in that fourth quarter, and it started at the end of the third, right? And they bottled that up with the play rather going into the fourth. And then Scotty just really took this fourth quarter over, right? And sometimes less is more. And he just recognized matchups, attacked them, start to get some rhythm going. And then he just put this team on his back. Sometimes it's not about the X's and O's. It's not about the tactics. It's about just willing your team and wanting it more. And he went out there and invigorated his team, and I thought that was special. And then from the defensive end, I thought Fred did a good job on Desmond Bain, heating him up, forcing some back doors and forcing him to speed him up a bit with the defensive pressure. So, those two for me were the catalysts in this fourth quarter. And, it's a fourth quarter game. Like the first three, they were a little bit uneasy, unsettled. Fourth quarter, the winning quarter, they came up with it.
Jack, what impressed you the most about this win?
Oh, the bench. Thad Young, Boucher, and Malachi Flynn. All three guys played with incredible force, toughness, purpose. They have no chance of even coming close in this game without those three guys. They were just awesome. And they kept them around. They kept, they just kept them in the game, and their will, their spirit, their fight was just big time. And I'd say when it got the entire team going, it was inspiring to guys watching. Look, Thad Young getting a few dunks. And Malachi Flynn did a great job. He had 5 assists, changing speeds, getting downhill, getting deep, making plays. And Boucher, man, he's playing really well. He turned the game around Friday night in Houston when they were flat as a pancake. And he came out and they were down only one after one quarter in Houston. And he did the same thing today. He came in and showed a lot of spirit. So, and of course, Scotty Barnes, it's interesting. When he gets empowered, his body language, his personality, his game changes. When he was with that group to start the fourth quarter and the ball was in his hands and he was the lead guard, suddenly okay, man, it's time. And that really gave him the jolt that he needed because he struggled early in the game.
And to that point, Jack, I'll direct this to Sherm. In the post-game interview Scotty had with Kayla Gray, he said, in these moments, I tend to be more focused, when the team needs something from me. That's pretty impressive, Sherm, for a guy that's, 21 years old?
Yeah, and we've seen this from Scotty, the ability to be a leader. Even in his rookie season, he was sometimes a de facto leader in terms of pockets of games where he just kind of took over and willed his team into certain spots. So this kind of moxie, this kind of maturity, this zone that Scotty can get into is very familiar to Raptor fans. And it's good to see him get back there in a game like this because this had all the feels of a letdown game, trying to get home, forgetting about finishing the job. And for a young player like Scotty to stay locked in like that and to really come through, he didn't just make a couple plays. He made a lot of plays down the stretch. Even the final possession against Jared Jackson, he did a great job not fouling, using his length, forcing him into a tough shot. So he was locked in on both sides of the basketball, and it was really, really good to see him take control like that.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Jevohn, too, because a lot of guys that are younger, they'll have, good games, or if they have a bad first half, that pretty much dictates what they do in the second half. But the really good players are the ones that can forget about those first 2 quarters or the first 3 quarters even and still play well in the fourth.
Yeah, and I think, Sherman or Jack alluded to it, is that when Scotty took over, right, you could just see his presence, you can see the enthusiasm, you can see the passion grow within him, right? And I think that, he completely wiped out, the first half of the basketball game, 13 points in the fourth quarter. And he took it as a challenge. And like you're saying, great players do that, right? You wipe out what happened in the first and you just play. And when the team needed him to step up, when the team needed him to put the responsibility on his shoulders, he did that. I think it also helps when you shoot 23 more field goals than a team, than your opponent. It also gives you more opportunity, gives you confidence, one, but it gives more opportunity to make adjustments. And I thought that's where the Raptors collectively did that. But again, speaking to Scotty's play, and you want to see more of that from him, right? Because I think that's been, the missing component of his game, is just that consistency, and not consistently scoring the basketball or making plays, but playing at an intense level. Because when he does that, this team plays at a completely different level.
Mm-hmm. Jack, you talked about this in the broadcast, and it was a tough whistle, I thought, at times for the Raptors. I thought that fifth foul on Pascal Siakam was weak at best.
Yep. No, it was. I wasn't a big fan of it today. It was a choppy game. But nonetheless, when push came to shove, things worked out for the Raptors. I thought the challenge was awesome by the Raptors. So it all came together. And guys, I tell you what, in a 28-year, we've only games on the road 4 times. And this is the first time it's ever happened. To go 4-3 on a trip like this. And quite frankly, the 3 games they lost, they were in every game as well. And, if you just go back before this trip, they've been relatively competitive all the time. And maybe this galvanizes them. And I understand the trade deadline's Thursday. But if you look at the 5 games they have coming up at home, I think they have a chance to win all 5 of them. And who knows? Who knows? Mm-hmm. This could be the moment that triggers something really cool. I don't know the answer. I don't know what's going to happen. But I'll say this. This was as good a win as you've seen all year.
Yeah. And Sherm, to that point, what do you think the mindset is with these guys coming back after a road trip like that, knowing what's ahead of them here, 1 game before the trade deadline?
Well, they're all aware of all the noise that's going around this team in terms of how much the league is paying attention to what the Raptors may or may not do. But I think they also understand that they've been in this league long enough to know you don't get caught up in that. You just continue to play, continue to do what you do until you get that call. So they have enough leadership, I think, to understand that the next 2 days are going to be important to get enough rest and get ready to play, and understand that they're going to have to face the music when it comes to questions about the trade deadline. They've been through it before, but there's nobody who's in that discussion that doesn't understand how this league runs. And a mature group will go about it the right way and take care of business as they need to, regardless of what's happening around them.
Mm-hmm. Just to add to that, Randy, to Sherm's point there, I think you also, for those guys in that locker room, right, you got to enjoy these games. You got to enjoy these days, because with all the rumors, with all the noise, the reality is it could be the last time that all of those guys play together. All of those guys are family in that locker room, our brotherhood in that locker room, right? So you got to enjoy this moment right now, and just each practice that's in front of you, each day that's in front of you, each game that's in front of you. You got to win those days. You got to win those games, because you're right. It's the nature of the business. Anything can change.
Mm-hmm. And with that, Jack, Kyrie Irving was traded today to the Dallas Mavericks. Just thoughts on that whole debacle, because it's crazy to me.
My first reaction is the 2 ball dominant guys, and Luka is one of the top 3-4 guys in the league right now. So I'm curious to see from a chemistry perspective how that fits. And secondly, is this a long-term thing? And if it isn't, you just gave up 2 pretty good pieces and a first-round pick for a rental. So I don't know the answer. Who knows? It it might be an incredible mix and it might work out beautifully. I don't have an answer. I just look at how things ended in Boston and in Cleveland and now in Brooklyn. I'm not sure if the track record's great. I was a little surprised.
Sherman, agree or disagree? Brooklyn got better today.
Well, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. Kevin Durant has to get back to that team for you to figure out who they are now in the new configuration. I will say this. Dallas has struggled this season because they haven't had a Jalen Brunson type to relieve that pressure off of Luka. Now, you can't load up on Luka the way you did before Kyrie got there. You're going to have to spread it out a bit more. And Luka with more opportunities to operate one-on-one. And if he's double-teamed and they kick that ball and get it to Kyrie, now what do you do? Because he's another guy who can get it going on his own. But defensively, you got significantly worse. Let's be honest. You weren't a great defensive team in Dallas. You're not going to be any better with Kyrie there. Don't forget, Markieff Morris is in that deal too. And he adds some depth to the team in Dallas so he can shoot the ball. And he's a bit of a rugged defender as well.
Yeah,
I gotta say that was my biggest concern. To Jack's point, I get both guys are ball dominant, and I don't know who's gonna take a back seat there. It definitely probably won't be Luka, but I don't know who's gonna play some defense. It's gonna be just blow by after blow by, and so one of those guys is gonna have to sacrifice and compromise a bit more from their game for it to work it out. I'm not too certain I would have made that move, and I think it caught everybody by surprise. I think I'm interested to see how it works out. I'm just as surprised as when Minnesota made the move for Gobert. It's similar in my stance.
Real
Jason
quick,
Kidd will be playing a lot of zone defense.
Yeah. Real quick, Jack. Dylan Brooks, of course, didn't play tonight, serving his 1-game suspension for punching Donovan Mitchell below the belt. Mitchell fined $20,000 for his reaction. Do you guys agree with the punishments? Jacko.
Well,
Randy, I lost you there for a second. Okay, I got you. What was that? Donovan Mitchell and Dylan Brooks?
Yeah, I just said Donovan Mitchell fined $20,000. Dylan Brooks suspended for a game for that punch below the belt. Just do you agree with the punishments?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Dylan Brooks should be suspended. There's no doubt. I don't care if he's a Canadian or not. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can't do that. Yeah, I mean, I think they handled it the right way. I'm not sure if there's any other way to do it.
Yeah. Sherman, you were going to say something?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I thought Jack was frozen, so I was going to jump in there. And Jack basically said what I feel. Yeah, you can't do that if you're Dylan Brooks. And Donovan Mitchell had a reaction that warranted a situation as well. So I think they handled it properly, and I'm glad it didn't escalate any further. And whoever is that assistant or security guy for the Memphis Grizzlies that dove in there and took Dylan Brooks out, he might have saved Dylan Brooks some more penalties if Dylan Brooks didn't get dragged down like that.
Yeah, listen, one game's not enough, in my opinion, for something like that. Jevohn?
Man, I agree with it. And I think you got to reel some of these guys back in because, was it a night after, then you have Mo Bamba and Rivers, playing a little wrestling out there. But
they got some multiple game suspensions. So
they did. Yeah. So it's, what Dylan did, you really can't, you've got to penalize that. You got for both guys.
All right, guys, good stuff. Going to stop it there. Next game for the Raptors. They are back home on Wednesday against the San Antonio Spurs. Tip-off goes at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget, after the game, come on by Real Sports and be a part of the show as we live stream to YouTube. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.